Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Another edition of our WTP Sports Dudes rankings. Going to continue tonight. Going to stay on the defensive side and go with the interior defensive linemen. That's where we're heading this week. But before we get going with our rankings, let's go ahead and introduce the two fine gentlemen you see on screen right now. Down there at the bottom of your screen, you'll see Robert, as I like to call him, the CEO of WTP Sports Dudes. Mr. Robert, how are things going with you?
I'm doing fantastic this evening. Good to be here, ready to get in some of this defensive line talk.
For sure. And then up in the upper right corner, you'll see the man post game. He has become the unofficial, in my mind, COO of the WTP Sports Dudes. For the glorious thumbnails that y'all see on these streams, I always refer to Post to create them because he is a master of them. Mr. Postgame, how are things going over in your world?
Yes, sir, man. I'm happy to be here. It's always a blessing to be on with you guys, man, and talk these here good sports we love. Everything is fantastic, and I want to encourage the people to subscribe to the channels tonight.
For sure, every channel. You'll see them all scrolling down at the bottom, all stream long. Go like, subscribe, notification bell so you'll know when we're going on. All that good stuff helps us out. Be sure to comment. Give us some, what you want us to talk about. We'll get into it. But without further ado, let's jump into these rankings. Interior defensive linemen. Gentlemen, there's going to be some defensive line, including edge rushers, with these people here that are going to be a force in college football this season. And you'll notice that if you watch our edge rusher show, you're going to see we're going to have some defensive lines that are going to be a serious problem. So we'll jump off. We tabulated our votes like we normally do, 10-1, and came up with our top 10. This week, everybody sent in a list with the same 10 people on it, just different orders. So there was a consensus number one who swept the board, which I was kind of shocked. But without further ado, we're going to jump on number 10. Mr. Bear Alexander came in with 4 total votes. For the people in the chat, that's what you'll notice the number in parentheses is. You got his name, school, points he garnered through our rankings, and then stats from last season posted. Start with you, postgame. Let's talk about some Bear.
Yeah, I really like this guy at the defensive tackle position. Bounced around a little bit early on from Georgia to USC. Now he's found a home at Oregon, which that Oregon defensive line, I fully expect the Oregon defensive line to be the creme de la creme of college football, and it's going to be really difficult to deal with, man. He stands at 6'3", over 300 pounds, really good punch, power in his punch, and with so many other good defensive linemen surrounding him, he's going to have a great opportunity to make a lot of plays this year. Bear Alexander, just a monster. What else can you say, man?
Rob, thoughts on Bear Alexander?
Yeah, Bear Alexander, man, and postgame mentioned he's jumped around a little bit, but statistically he has been better every year that he's been in college football. He's going into his 5th season, over 100 tackles, 56 of them solos. This guy last year really showed me that he is starting to turn the corner when it comes to discipline and being able to be ultra focused. This guy played in all 15 games last year, all 15, and didn't have not one single penalty. This guy is ready to move on to the NFL after this season. I hope he has a really, really successful season. This Oregon defensive line is going to be unbelievable. When we talked about the 2 edge rushers that's at Oregon, and we're talking about Bear Alexander now, I really like him and the fact that he's starting to turn the corner mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Yeah, the last one I think is huge for this kid. I've watched this kid and heard about him since he was in high school back in Texas, and he went to 4 different high schools in 4 years. So he's bounced around a lot throughout his football career. But one thing that has always stood out about this guy is watch his first step off the ball. It is insanely fast. And now being in college, he has developed he had the strength, of course, but it's gotten even more in college to where his strength, I mean, he hold off tackles and guards with one arm. I mean, this dude is going to be a monster. Y'all both mentioned the defensive line with the edge rushers we've already mentioned. Just wait, because Oregon's defensive line will even get more flowers sent their way later on. So stay tuned if you're an Oregon fan. But moving up to number 9, we're going to jump to the other team that is going to be a problem on the defensive line. And we're going to jump to Justin Scott of Miami, who came in with 7 votes. And Rob, we're going to let you start off with Mr. Scott.
Yeah, we got Justin Scott in his 3rd year, 6'4", a little under 300 pounds, a guy who you can put in the 0 all the way to 3 technique, a guy who can be right up over the center and can also get in between the guard or even head up on a guard. I really like the upside of this young man. He has a quick first step as well, can get off of blocks and can get in those creases and really push the pocket. I really like him. 1 forced fumble, and he had 33 total tackles. Now, he doesn't have some amazing stats yet, but I think this year is the year he's going to get to turn the corner. We had a lot of attention played towards Mesidor and Bain last year. I think Justin Scott is going to be one of those guys this year that we're going to be talking about on that Miami defensive front.
Folks, can go ahead and let you jump on.
Yeah, this Justin Scott has always been interesting to me. Coming out of high school, out of St. Ignatius in Chicago, he was a 5-star recruit, a guy I know Notre Dame really wanted to commit, and I think Notre Dame made his final schools. The reason why he didn't come to Notre Dame was because he didn't want to go to a situation where he was the best. At the time, he would have been the best defensive tackle at Notre Dame. So he goes to Miami, where they got Jason Taylor as their defensive line coach, and he's in a really good situation. Explosive athlete that can run, chase down the runner, sideline to sideline, elite athleticism. This is a guy who can work his way into the first round of the NFL draft if he decides to go after this season. I expect him to make a lot of plays and be really disruptive. But a question I got to ask you guys, when you think about teams like Oregon, Texas Tech, Miami, would you rather have 2 elite defensive tackles or 2 elite edge rushers?
For me, it has to be 2 elite edge rushers.
I want. Can I have one of each, or do I have to choose 2?
Which one would you rather start your team with?
But I think I'm going to go interior, because you can find guys to get after the quarterback, but finding guys to plug holes up the middle in some of these run games can be a problem. So give me the 2 stud nose tackle defensive tackles. That's where I'd go with that. My take on Justin Scott is exactly, I mean, y'all said it all. Rob, you mentioned he doesn't have the high sack numbers of some of these people, but I think in the scheme of that defense, his job is to do what I said: plug the run, push the pocket, push the guard in the center back into the quarterback's face and make him go one way or the other to where one of those 2 bookends last year, Mesidor and Bain, are just sitting there waiting for him. So I think that's the grand scheme of that defense that they're running over there. But I don't really expect huge sack numbers out of the guy, but I think he's gonna help shut down the middle with the run game. Anything else on Justin Scott before we move on? No? All right. Next, we're going to jump over to a team we haven't really mentioned in many of these rankings lists. And we're going to jump just below the state of Ohio, where Rob and I are, and pretty much just a little bit south of Indiana, too, and jump to Kentucky to Tavion Gadsden. He tied with Scott for 7 votes each, but I just put them in alphabetical order, ranking them that way. So that's why he's ahead of Scott on the rankings. So we'll go with Gadsden, and we'll let post-game, you can take the lead on the Kentucky boy.
Yes, sir. Stein says that if Kentucky is going to win, it's going to be because of him. Well, Tavion Gadsden is going to have – it's a really bad echo, fellas. Tavion Gadsden is going to have a lot to do with Kentucky being successful this year. Now, he has to stay healthy. This is a guy who's been banged up throughout his career, so he has to stay healthy. But the thing I like about Tavion is his burst, his get off. It jumps off the screen when you watch him play. And if he's able to stay healthy this season, gentlemen, those sacks are going to go up as well as those tackles. I love Tavion Gadsden. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to ball out.
Yeah, I like Tavion Gadsden as well. Gadsden as well. I'm telling you right now, we've talked about this Kentucky team for a number of years in terms of them being able to play some of the better teams in the SEC really, really close with possibilities of pulling off some upsets. And they've always had a player or two on their defense, a player or two on their offense that was really, really talented and got high draft grades in the NFL. I think this young man, after 2 years, and post-game you said it absolutely correct, in the interior, he is an excellent pass rusher in the interior that can get after the quarterback. 2 years, 29 total tackles, 16 solos, 3 sacks, 20 quarterback pressures. He's coming back from a major knee injury. And I think that once he gets all the way fully healthy, you're going to see this guy explode this year. And I'm really looking forward to watching Kentucky. I know Texas is going to be their 3rd year playing Kentucky. Kentucky played them really, really well in Austin 2 years ago. They played them extremely well. It should have beat Texas last year at home in Lexington. I'm looking forward to watching this young man ball out.
Yeah, kid was highly regarded, had some issues with injuries in his first 2 seasons, came back last year, put on a really good thing. While I was looking up his stats, I came across the PFF for him at a 16.9 pass rush win rate, which was the best of all Power 4 defensive tackles. So as long as he stays healthy, which I expect, he played last year and had no problem. I think Kentucky might have found the anchor on that defense right there. He proved it last year. You mentioned it, Rob, against Texas, playing now with another full year of strength, training, conditioning underneath his belt. I think he could fly up from this number 8 ranking we have him, or 7, 8, all the way. He could be in the top 5 by the end of the season, in my mind. This kid's going to be a problem. I think so. Let's see, get back up here. Next, we're going to go over to Notre Dame, and is it Francis Baru post game? I'll leave you with the pronunciation of your Notre Dame guys.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways. I'm not sure what it is. I've heard Francis Brew, and I've heard people call him Francis Brew. All
right. Well, we'll go with Francis for now. But whichever it doesn't sound like. Sounds like everybody's on the fence on that one. We're going to let you go last on him post game. So we'll go Rob, then I'll jump in and let you finish up with your boy there from Notre Dame.
Man, it is super exciting to get a guy from Westerville, Ohio, really close to your neck of the woods where you live at, SEC, Sean. Just a few minutes drive up from where I live here in Columbus, Ohio, one of the suburbs of Columbus. I'm excited about this young man. He's only 6'2", 280. But I'm telling you right now, his motor is unbelievable. This guy is going to be a 5 tech where he can set the edge. If you need him to set the edge in those run situations, I'm telling you, man, I feel like this guy can go out there and play with his motor nonstop. Because this guy played over 400 and something odd snaps, and he was never really fatigued. He was able to keep on rolling. He didn't lose snaps because he was tired and had to run to the sideline to get a sub. He stayed on that field because his motor was just that great. I'm excited about him. Hopefully they can fit on a few more pounds on him. Hopefully he's gotten a few more pounds put on him. But by the time fall ball start, I expect this guy to be in the 290 range, possibly even 295. At that range, I think this guy is going to be unbelievable. In a Notre Dame system that we all know has every piece that they need defensively, and this guy's got an opportunity to shine. I'm going to be watching him very closely as well.
Yeah, I had that written down to mention that he was from Thomas Worthington High School is where he went to high school. And you don't really hear much. You know, your Pick Centrals and your people like that always get all the headlines and stuff. You don't hear much about that school. But I thought it was pretty cool that he was from there. I don't know much about the school. I can't lie about it, being from Texas. But I've driven by the school a lot of times. And then when I saw it pop up that he was from there, I was like, hey, I actually know where that school is. So had a PFF run defense his whole career. His PFF rush defense is an 80.3 rank. That's good for a whole career. But, you know, you see the stat, you know, I was at Pittsburgh last year. So we're gonna see. You mentioned being in the Notre Dame system. I don't want to steal any thunder. I'd like to let post game because he's the only one that has a guy on this list out of our teams. So I'm gonna let post game kind of finish up and have his run of the table with his Notre Dame Fighting Irish man over there.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Francis Brew. The mighty mouse of the defensive tackles we have on this top 10 list, fellas, but don't let the size fool you. I used to like to say men lie, women lie, numbers can deceive you because this guy is small in stature, but he bench presses close to 500 pounds and squats over 600 pounds. This dude is a monster. And he's in that ilk. I'm not saying he's the defensive tackle from they used to play at Pittsburgh, Aaron Donald, but those smallest defensive tackles that when you glance at him, you think, oh, he's going to get ate up by the guards and center, and he's dominating the game from the interior. Francis Brew is going to make a lot of plays this season for Notre Dame. I'm excited to watch him. Strong, athletic kid. And he was a guy who was recruited by Charlie Partridge coming out of high school. So it's a great thing to watch him reunited with Charlie Partridge, and probably the reason he transferred to Notre Dame this season. So under Charlie Partridge's tutelage, I expect big things from Francis Brew this year.
For sure. He's another one of the guys that I think could fly up the list with his ability in being in that system. I think he's another one that we could see. If we re-ranked this at the end of the year, I'm betting you there's a few of these names that would be higher up. So now we're on a Midwest run here. We're going to stay over in that state. just drop a little bit and go check in on Tyreek Tucker from Indiana. And we'll let post game you can take the lead on Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek is a special defensive tackle. This is a guy who walked on at James Madison? Yeah, this is a guy who walked on at James Madison, fellas, and then follows Kirk Signetti to Indiana, and look at the numbers he's put up. 38 total tackles, 17 solo, 6 sacks. He was a force last season for the Hoosiers, and if the Hoosiers are going to continue that success, he's going to be a big part of it. His explosiveness stands out when you watch him play, and also that slap by I think it was running back Fletcher from the national championship game. I'm pretty sure he's going to want some get back, but this is a dominant defensive tackle. I love to see stories where guys walk on, guys were counted out. Nobody thought they would amount to anything on the football field. And look, Tyree Tucker has a national championship, and he's coming back for more. Undersized guy, but definitely gets the job done for Signetti and the Hoosiers, and I'm excited to watch him play this year.
Yeah, post game, you mentioned he's an undersized guy, only at 6'307", and you mentioned the fact that he had an unbelievable year last year for Indiana with 6 sacks from an interior lineman. That's incredible. But over his career, starting off at James Madison, where he walked on, 92 tackles, 33 solos, 3 passes defended, 10 sacks in 3 years. I'm telling you right now, I feel like this guy understands the fact that he has a coach that understands discipline, understands scheme, and understands how to put players in the best possible situations to be successful. This guy is only 6 foot. You think about the Aaron Donalds, the Byron Murphys of the world, smaller guys, the Poona Fords of the world, smaller guys who have such an impact on the defensive line. And this guy is one of them. And I'm anxious to see what he does this season. And I hope that his draft grade goes through the roof and he ends up at a team where he can go out there and have the kind of impact we've seen him have last year at Indiana, a national championship Indiana.
Yeah, James Madison transfer, smaller in stature, huge motor on this guy. I'm going to take the apology. I fat fingered the number. It's 7 sacks last year. So I apologize for that. They shouldn't put that 6-7 next to each other. We don't do it. I did it. That's enough. But 7 sacks from the D line or D tackle was the most in power forward. His for a guy, and this is why I think this is crazy, coming from a smaller school of James Madison, his run defense grade over in PFF over the past 2 years is 85.6. which is higher than anybody else that's on our top 10. He's the highest. And you start talking about stature and where he came from. Now you know that he has an extremely high motor. So I expect big things out of him. He obviously knows the system. Signetti obviously trusts him. So I don't expect anything but big, huge numbers coming from this guy. So there's Tyreek Tucker. Next, I saw this mentioned in the comments down here. One of these comments, I got to find it again. Here it is. From SBC Bates, where they have David Stone. Well, I hope you're still in because that's who's coming up next. Coming in at number 5 on our rankings is David Stone from OU. 20 total votes. I forgot to mention Tyreek Tucker had 15. Rob, this is your most hated rivals team. So we're going to let you go first just to get it because I know you want to get that taste out of your mouth.
Oh no, I'm okay with it, man, because I got family from Oklahoma who are huge Oklahoma Sooner fans. So they got me respecting Oklahoma to the utmost. I really like David Stone. I wanted him to go to Texas when he was coming out of high school. I thought they would have a shot at him, but I guess the money just wasn't right, and Oklahoma was able to get him. 6'3", 310 pounds, 48 total tackles. You got 2.5 sacks over 26 games, 10 tackles for loss. Expected to have a huge season this season. I think this young man is going to really ball out. I think he's exactly what they need in that interior. He's able to get off of blocks. He's able to create havoc up the middle. And we saw that in many of the games this past season. We expect Oklahoma to have one of the best defenses, especially in the SEC, but I think in the country. And I think it starts with that up front group, him being the main guy. I'm looking forward to seeing him again this year. I just hope he doesn't do what he did, wreaking havoc against Texas. Even though Texas won, he was balling out.
Yeah, David Stone for me should be higher than 5 fellas, respectively. I think he's a top 3 defensive tackle. That's how much I love this guy. Rob mentioned it when he spoke, man. This is a 5-star recruit, a guy a lot of teams wanted to have. First of all, he can anchor a defensive line. If you watch him, like his get off is special and his explosiveness. Not to mention he has heavy hands, which is always a problem for an interior offensive lineman to deal with. If he develops and he continues on this trajectory, this is a guy who can be the #1 defensive tackle in the country when it's all said and done after the season. I really like David Stone, top 5. I would have liked him at top 3, but this is a guy, when you watch Oklahoma, you keep an eye on David Stone because you're going to see somebody anchoring a defensive line, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
That's exactly what he is. He's a big anchor in the center of, Rob, you mentioned it, one of what we expect to be the best defenses in the country. I mean, you see his numbers there. Those right there speak for himself. I feel that Oklahoma uses their DTs kind of in a Miami style. They're not really expected to sack quarterbacks. They're just there to plug the middle and let the linebackers flow. And that's what really you want your DTs to be. You think about all of the guys who play defensive line. 26 pressures he put on the quarterback for 26 pressures, was 15th out of all of those people. And he was tied for 7th with 27 defensive stops. You mentioned he was an anchor. 6'3", 310. That's a big boy in the middle.
That's a dancing bear.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I really like Stone. You did have him 3rd on your list post game. That, to be fair, when you said that, Rob and I both had him coming in at 5th. My top 5, I think I played with the order 3 or 4 times before I finally settled on it, moving people around. I had Stone at 1. I had Stone at 3. So I do.
No,
I think
all these guys are worthy. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, he'll be the anchor on the front of that to control the run game and let everybody else kind of flow. So that's where we are with David Stone. Let's go back to South Florida, shall we? And we'll jump in with Ahmad Moten, back from last year. I really thought he was going to go in the draft, but he decided to come back. 21 total points for him. You see the stats there, and we'll let postgame lead off with Ahmad.
Again, another elite defensive tackle for Miami, the U, under the tutelage of Jason Taylor, man. This is a guy who could have went to the draft, decided to come back to Miami, The things that stand out is his burst, his athleticism. This is a guy I can remember my coaches back in the day. Hands. This is a guy, when you watch him, he uses his hands beautifully. And I think he's going to be a centerpiece for that Miami defensive line along with Justin Scott. I think they're going to be dominant. What you seen last year was 2 dominant edges. Now I think you'll see 2 dominant interior defensive linemen. So that if people think that Miami defensive line is going to fall off, which I mean, okay, they had 2 first-round picks at defensive end, but the talent they have down at the U, they can be just as good. And it starts in that interior with Ahmad Moulton. You see the stats, 31 tackles, 20 solo, 9 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. This is a guy who can move up this list as the season goes on. I really like Ahmad Moulton.
Man, I think he's one of those classic examples of why NIL is becoming so prominent for some of these players in their decision making on whether or not to go to the NFL or stay for a 4th year. This young man decided to come back for a 4th year, where in his first 3 years, 51 tackles, 28 solos, 6 sacks, an INT, got great quickness with his big frame, really good on early rundowns. This guy is going to be one of those players who we know from Miami is going to force teams to have to throw the ball on third down, or even on 2nd down if they're in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. This guy is going to be one of those players that I think Miami's going to be able to rely on, much like they were able to do with Ruben Bain and Mesidor last year. I agree with you post game. Their interior is going to be the part of their defensive line that we really talk a lot about, because it's probably going to be the best unit out of those defensive linemen. I like him. I mean, 6'3", 325. That's a monster in the middle, man. And I think this guy understands how to use his leverage and how to separate between the center and the guard if he has to get some penetration, and understands how to get those tackles for loss. I'm excited about this young man, and I hope that everything pays off for him, stand another year so that he can have a really high draft grade going into next year's NFL draft.
Let me ask you a question for you, Cook, Sean.
Go ahead.
Now, I asked y'all the question earlier, which one you would rather start a team with. If you're an offensive lineman, would you rather deal with elite pass rushers from the edge or elite, big, huge monsters in the middle? Which one would you rather see on game day?
I'd rather see, believe it or not, even though I said I'd start my team with it, I'd rather see elite defensive tackles. Edge rushers with their athletic ability could put a major hurting on your quarterback with a full head of steam coming at him. So give me the 2 defensive tackles.
Yeah, I'd rather go against 2 huge defensive tackles who are really, really good. I mean, if you go back to 2024, Texas versus Michigan, they had those 2 big defensive linemen in there, and Steve Sarkisian was able to scheme up some stuff to get them guys running sideline to sideline. And where did they end up in critical situations? On the sideline, because they was turners all get out, and then that's when Texas would run the ball at them. I'm telling you right now, when you got edge rushers, it's a nightmare, because if they get you in down in distances that are long, those edge rushers can really hurt your team.
Now, those some interesting takes, and if y'all don't mind, because I've seen quarterbacks be able to climb the pocket and the OC kind of scheme against elite pass rushers. Well, one thing about Tom Brady's career, I know we talking about college football, but just walk with me. If you had an elite defensive tackle who can get pressure up the middle, that oftentimes gave Tom Brady a lot of trouble. So I ask because it's so fascinating to me. Like, what would you rather deal with? hellacious rush from the edge or somebody coming right up the middle that can't be stopped? It's an interesting question, man.
No, it's a really good question. Both of those have been really good questions. You jumped in and interjected with, and those have been really good questions. It's good debate back and forth to find out everybody's different opinion on how you would handle it. I'm probably wrong in the way I've handled it. That's probably why I'm sitting here on this podcast and not on the sideline as an offensive coordinator somewhere. But we're going to give you what we think, and that's just what I hope the fans and everybody joining in enjoys. I can't get rid of this cough, guys. I apologize. So, Moten, we pretty much said what we needed to say about him. He came back. He was a monster last year. I remember the playoff game with A&M. I mean, he just we were more focused on Bain and Mesidor to not let them do something to us, that whenever Reed stood up and started to run, Moten was right there to stop him from going. Y'all have seen Marcel Reed cut through the middle and be gone. Moten was there to just be like, no, that's not happening, sir, and put him down. So I got firsthand saw what he can do, and he is just a huge, huge person. And when you watch him play, I'll tell you this, he plays, which all these guys do, but when I noticed with him is against a mobile quarterback like Reed, he played with such a high IQ of knowing if I get too far up the field, we're going to get burnt. So he knew exactly where he needed to stay. So, and that's a lot of credit to his defensive line coach, who you've mentioned post-game, Jason Taylor. So,
yeah, and speaking of A&M, last night I went back and watched the Notre Dame A&M game from 25. Just to have a broken heart again, hoping for a different outcome. But man, that was one heck of a game.
Yeah, that was an all-time classic in my mind for both teams. I mean, one of us had to lose, and it was going to be heartbreaking for either one. I would have rather have seen it go to overtime, no lie, post-game with the way it went down with the kids dropping the snap. I hate to see that, but great game. I watched it about 5 times, but probably for different reasons.
Yeah, same. About five times.
I have not rewatched the Miami A&M playoff game, though. That one's dead to me. So we'll leave Miami. What do y'all say we jump on a plane and go right back across the entire country to where we started this thing pretty early? Actually, we did start it here. Let's go back to Oregon. And let's go check on our main man up there, Mr. Amari Washington. And there's a stat on this page for everybody watching that just jumps off the page at me, and I'm sure one of you two gentlemen will notice it or probably mention it anyway. Came in with 24 first-place votes. And let me see who went first. I think it's Rob's turn to jump on Amari first.
Man, this is scary. You're thinking about Amari Washington at Oregon, 6'3", 330. He's a 3 technique in his 4th year, 45 tackles, 2 sacks, 37 games, 1,027 snaps. Good burst through the inside, good run support. Just imagine being an offensive lineman and you got a guy playing the 3 technique, and you got Bear Alexander on the other side of your center, possibly playing the 3 technique as well, both of them over your guards, and you have to decide who the center's going to help. He's going to have to help one of them, and I think the obvious choice is the guy who was 6'3", 330. But then you leave Bear Alexander one-on-one with a guard, man, he's going to be toast. I think this Oregon defensive line is going to be phenomenal. Amari Washington he's going to ball out. And I think the fact that he came back for a 4th year is for one reason and one reason only. And I think this team, after they lost in that college football playoff, decided, listen, we are coming to run it back because we think we can win the national. And they're going to be one of those teams that I feel like are one of the best teams in the country. And I think they got a really good, legitimate chance to do it. And I think it starts up front with that defensive line they have.
Yeah, great points, Rob. This is a guy where if football doesn't work out, which I'm hard pressed to believe it won't work out for this young man, Omari Washington from Oregon, he'll be a great bodyguard. I mean, his size just stands out to you. But here's the crazy part for me, and I'm going to read this off to y'all. This man had a GPS tracking speed of near 20.9 miles per hour at 6'3", 330 pounds. Bruh, that is ridiculous craziness. Is he even a human at this point? And then add this to it, fellas, a 36-inch vertical leap. This is an awesome, awesome athlete. And the more we dive into these top 10 rankings, I'm just loving Oregon more and more and more. The athletes, the type of ball players they have, especially on the defensive line, I don't know how any team's going to deal with this. You got 4 elite defensive linemen at Oregon who's all going to be high draft picks and put up big numbers and make plays. But his size, his burst, being able to put offensive linemen on their behind in the run game and disrupt your running offense all stands out for Omari Washington. Just what more can you say? A hell of a football player and very intimidating.
Yeah, you mentioned his speed post game. The stat I saw on him I was going to mention, his average speed chasing down defenders was 17 miles an hour. That's an average. That's insane for the size of that person. So, yeah, bodyguard for sure. He could definitely do that if this football thing does not work out, which I think this football thing is going to work out. I was flipping back a minute ago with our edge rusher list, just looking at this. You're looking at Tuioti, Mateo, whatever his line. Sorry about his Mateo. That's the 2 edge rushers, and then we've already had the 4 defensive linemen, pretty much in our top 10. And if you look at other rankings, they're pretty much in everybody else's top 10 too. So if you are an offensive lineman in the Big Ten playing Oregon, you probably need to eat your Wheaties, tighten your belt straps up, tighten your shoes up, get some extra tape. Or you can take my angle and just like tweak a hamstring in practice and just call it good till the next week. Because these defensive linemen from Oregon are not a joke. But go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but how would you attack this defensive line at Oregon? Like, I know they're in the Big Ten, so I know Notre Dame won't be seeing Oregon to the playoffs. Texas or A&M wouldn't be saying Oregon to the playoffs. What would your mindset as an offensive coordinator be attacking this defensive line? Because I can't think of any.
Well, in my mind, you still have to try to run the ball. You have to try to keep them somewhat honest. But you're going to have to develop and use a lot of hitches, slants, bubbles, even some motion, hoping to kind of wear the defensive ends out a little bit. Jet sweeps, things like that. You're not going to have time to sit back in the pocket, 7-step drops. You're not going to have that time. You're going to have to 3-step, get the ball out. It's going to have to be all timing mode. Unless you have a superior offensive line, which even then, that much wear and tear getting beat on. So That's my theory as an OC is quick, short motions, little quick, short passing game.
Yeah, for me, man, you gotta pray you got a dual threat quarterback, and you gotta have some play calling in your arsenal where you can go up tempo, and it gotta be the efficient kind of up tempo. It can't be the I'm going fast just to be going fast and you go 3 out. It can't be that. You got to be able to use tempo at the right time to keep them from being able to substitute and try to wear them down as much as you can, and hope that in the fourth quarter, your quarterback, who's a dual threat guy, can make some plays with his legs down the stretch. Of course, like SEC Sean said, you can't abandon the run. You got to continue to try to run that football. Even if it only gets you 2 yards here, 2 yards there, you still can't abandon it. But you got to have some kind of up-tempo offense in there where you force those guys to have to stay on the field and you going as quickly as you can, but it has to be efficient.
What about you, post-game? How are you attacking it?
Bro, I don't know. That's why I asked y'all. I wouldn't know how. I mean, it would have to do. It would have to do a lot with personnel, because even if you get this defensive line moving sideways, they have the speed and athleticism to do that. I think the best way to attack them is to wear them down. Run the ball, mix them up, confuse them. You better pray you got some great blocking tight ends. I mean, only Peyton Manning would know how to attack this D line, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even to mention that, but 12 or 13 personnel would be a solid way. It kind of limits your offense, and if you go into 13, but I mean, at least maybe your quarterback could stay alive. I don't know what else to say, but yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be. I'm glad I'm not in the Big Ten. That defensive line is nasty.
And then when you think about the Big Ten conference, do you see any team being able to deal with this? I know a lot of people think Ohio State is going to have a great offensive line, but I believe they have a lot of starters coming back from last year. And last year they were good. I don't think they were great, but I just don't. I don't know any team in the Big Ten who's going to be able to deal with this defensive line.
Offensive line, probably Indiana. To be honest, if you put me on the spot right now and said, what offensive line in the Big Ten can handle with this, I'm going to go Indiana.
That's the only one I would say too, just simply because we all know how disciplined and how much attention to detail Curt Cignetti's offensive line pays attention to that stuff, man. They don't get out of place. They don't do any of that. They don't make errors, man. And I think that would be one. We talked about Ohio. We mentioned Ohio State, but I didn't think Ohio State's line was any good against really good football teams that had a good front. They were not able to do well at all. We've seen it against Texas. We've seen it against Indiana. And we've seen it against Miami. They did not fare so well against really good defensive lines. And I know that their linemen are going to be a couple of years older, but I didn't think they were that great last year. And I think they haven't found a combination where they actually want these guys to play in their best position. So I think the verdict's still out on Ohio State's offensive line.
Hey, Rob, if T.Y. was here, he would have turned to the same color as my shirt here. You see that? Say that.
You know what? But one take Zaya would have agreed.
Yeah. That's. You also have to factor in Ohio State's bringing in a new OC. So if the offensive line is back, it's still a new offensive line because they've got to learn all the splits and everything that this OC wants to do.
Yeah.
So you got to factor all of that in when you're looking at this. That's why I would go Indiana as the offensive line that I guess is the best able to hold up to this. You know, this is where you put it in perspective, though, and flip it around. Look at how much love we've given Miami for what they've got. Who in the ACC is going to stand up to that line?
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't have one. Maybe SMU or Louisville has a great line. I don't know. But, I mean, that's why this year's going to be so fun, because you mentioned it earlier about how much you were liking this Oregon team post game. And the only question I have from Oregon is right up here.
Yeah.
Is between the ears. That's the only thing I have on them. So
I can't remember real quick. Before we get back to the rankings, do both of y'all have Oregon as y'all preseason one?
I think I had Oregon as preseason one.
I believe. No, I think I threw the reverse jinx. I think I had them two. I had Texas at one. I think I had Texas 1, Oregon 2. I'd have to go back and look. I have them in my phone. I'd have to go back and look. While y'all are talking about the next guy, I may scroll back and see if I can find what I had.
If I didn't have them one, I got them one now.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't done as deep of a dive as we've done going through these rankings. So I probably would have had them one. I might have had them one anyway. Actually, no, I think I had Notre Dame 1. In fact, I know I had Notre Dame 1, Oregon 2. That's what I had. So
yeah, I know they're either 1 or 2 for me, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to me, there's 3 complete teams that on paper it looks like. And it looks like it's Notre Dame, Oregon, and probably Miami is the top, most complete with not many questions. But, you know, there's a long season still coming, fellas. So
you would rank Miami ahead of Texas?
Right. Yeah, I think so. Slightly. I don't have as many questions with Miami as I do with Texas. That's why. I got a couple of questions with Texas on the defensive side, with the secondary, and on the offensive side with that offensive line again. So I don't have that's the only reason. The top 6 or 8 teams we could probably make arguments for, but that's where I would have it right now. Sorry to all the Longhorn fans watching.
We forgive you.
That's all right. All right, gentlemen. We're in the top 2, and we're going to jump over to the artist formerly known as Lane Kiffin's team, and jump to Will Eccles from Mississippi. Oh, real quick before we move to Will Eccles, the one thing I forgot to mention. Did y'all see the last stat in Mr. Amari Washington's line? 8 passes defended. Yeah, just swatting them down, but that's insane. So now we'll jump over to Will Eccles.
That's insane and a really underrated stat.
Right. That's why I had to throw that one in there, because, I mean, if that's third down, brother, and you're swatting them, that's punt time.
I'm anxious to know how many of those passes defended might have got deflected and became an interception.
That's the one thing I couldn't track down. I did actually look for that while I was doing that, but there was no. I mean, I could have gone play by play for the whole season, but I wasn't doing that much. But yeah, even if they're not, though, you force a punt by knocking it down on third down. It's just as good as a turnover sometimes, you know. So. Mm-hmm. But next we got Will Eccles from Mississippi State. 25 total points in our rankings. We're on a post game to jump this one off. Post game, you can lead off with Mr. Will.
Yeah, Will Eccles, man, really an impressive defensive tackle. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, he came into college as an offensive guard. moves to defensive tackle and becomes a nightmare for opposing offenses. I was really surprised, Sean and Rob, that this guy didn't follow Kiffin to LSU, but he stays at Mississippi. Explosive player. Watch his get off. As soon as that ball is snapped, he's moving. Really effective pass rusher. I believe he led the country in pressure rate and stops. That's unbelievable for a guy coming into college as an offensive guard. That just tells you how great of an athlete he is. I really like Will Elko. Would not be surprised if he's numero uno at the end of the season.
Yeah, I like Will Echols too at Mississippi, 6'3", 310. Played 2 years, 77 tackles, 37 solos. This guy's a real serious pocket pusher. Check out this stat, guys. He logged 765 snaps in 15 games, 7 sacks, 6 passes defended. When you got a guy with that kind of motor, man, with that kind of juice that can play that many plays, that's probably half their plays. And you normally only want a guy on your defensive line possibly playing 33% of those plays. You want those things to get scattered out amongst some other guys. But this guy played nearly 50% of their defensive snaps. That's incredible for a defensive lineman to be able to log that kind of production, being out there on the field for that long. I think Will Echols, at the end of the day, he might be the number 1 defensive tackle coming off the board in the NFL draft if he decides to go to the NFL after his 3rd season, which the way NIL money is getting dropped nowadays, you don't know. But I think he's going to go to the NFL after this season, especially if he has one like he had last year.
Yeah. You think about this. Over 1/3 of every tackle he made was behind the line of scrimmage. That's an insane rate. And I don't think I'm not saying they were like just 1 yard losses either. I think these were like 2, 3, 4, 5 yard, put teams behind the chain type plays. But that's still, I don't care if it is 1 yard. Over a third of your stops are tackle for losses from the defensive tackle position. 5, 6 passes defended. I mean, you mentioned it, Post. Offensive lineman turned into defensive nightmare, and you see that transition some with players going from offensive to defensive sides of the ball, especially linemen. But you asked the question, you really didn't why he wouldn't follow Kiffin, and the quick, easy answer I have for you is Pete Golding was the DC that really recruited him there.
Yeah, facts. Good
so
point.
That'd be my main reason for him staying there. I'm sure NIL had something to do with it. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, we know Kiffin is more of an offensive mind coach, him and Charlie Weiss Jr. So if the DC that recruited me is now the head coach and I flourished in his system, why not stay here? So I expect huge things from this kid this year. I don't see any way possible he doesn't go to the draft. I know Rob mentioned something about coming back. I just don't. I think you're talking a potential maybe top 10 pick in the NFL. Freakish athlete that you mentioned, the tackles over 2 years. You're talking 37 tackles over 2 years. Or 37 solo tackles over 2 years. He had 32 last year alone. Mm-hmm. So that means that first year he was just learning how to play that position after coming from the offensive side. Now he's got a full year of knowing what to do. And I think he's going to wreak havoc, and it would not surprise me if we did it again at the end of the year that he's not number one on our list. And I'm really glad he's not on A&M's schedule. That's just a side note. And next, we will follow up with the consensus. First place across the board from all people that voted with 30 points. Mr. A.J. Holmes from Texas Tech. Thank you, Cody Campbell. Oh, was I not supposed to say that? Is that a dig or something? Sorry. And it'll be, we got post-game leading this one off? Yeah, I think post-game leads this one. Is it post-game or you, Rob? I don't remember. I've lost track of who goes where. Whoever wants to speak on Texas Tech first, go ahead.
Go ahead, folks.
Yeah, the same thing be happening to me when I host, man. But anyway, AJ Holmes, we got him number one on the board, best defensive tackle in college football. And if you watch college football, that isn't far-fetched at all. This is a guy who came over from Houston to Texas Tech and just blossomed. And you know what's interesting? A lot of scouts are comparing him to Chris Jenkins from Michigan. Man, this is a dude who's really stout against the run, man. When I'm watching his tape, it's just like he has a nose for the ball, and he's able to stymie blockers and find the ball quickly. That's a major key for a defensive tackle, when you can get off your block and find the ball and attack. And he disrupts tons of plays. I'm not surprised he's number one. He's number one for a lot of people. But can he keep that number one ranking throughout the season? He has a great chance to. But the difference is some of these other defensive tackles are younger than him. So it'd be an interesting watch. But just like Oregon, fellas, this Texas Tech, and people wonder why some people are still picking Tech to win the Big 12. Their defensive line is one of the major keys, because I think they got the transfer from Wake Forest as well. But their defensive line is going to cause a lot of trouble this year.
Yeah, SEC Sean, you was absolutely right. Cody Campbell, man. Cody Campbell gets this guy to stay for a fifth year. If you look at him as being number one on our board, he's number one on a lot of people's board. You know that this guy could have went on to the NFL, but Cody Campbell threw him that bag at Texas Tech, brought him back for a fifth year. But I think he's going to have an amazing year. Like you said, post-game, a guy who can get off of blocks and really disrupt the interior. This guy, 10 sacks over his career, 4 passes defended, 101 tackles. I think this guy and this Texas Tech team, I'm quite sure they're hearing the noise, because ever since Brandon Sorsby was ruled ineligible and he wasn't going to be able to play, or he decided to go in the supplemental draft and all that, people were backing away from Texas Tech, and that added fuel to the fire, because I think my man A.J. Holmes is going to go out there and ball out to let the country know, no, we don't need Brandon Sorsby to be all that, because this defense is legit.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you look at 88.1 grade as a run defender, which made him the most valuable interior defensive lineman in all of college football. I mean, I'm glad Texas Tech man isn't in our chat, because I'm sure we'd be hearing about him a lot, about how great he is. And he is. He's phenomenal, guys. Look, everything that is said about this man is phenomenal. I mentioned Will Eccles had a third of his tackles were for loss. Well, half of A.J. Holmes' tackles were solo, and 1/4 of them were for loss. with 4.5 sacks and a forced fumble to go with it all. So he's going to anchor that Tech defensive line. You said it right. People kind of wrote them off after the Sorsby thing. Texas Tech defense is going to be good. And all Texas Tech needs is for their offense to be above average. And they're going to cause some. They'll have the Big 12 will be there for them to take if they can beat Houston. That is, but AJ Holmes. I mean, consensus #1 across the board from a lot of stuff I've seen ranking Big 12 guys and SEC and all college football guys. He's been a consensus top 2 or 3 at least, and most of them had him 1. That'll conclude our list. We did have a couple of names thrown into our chat earlier. I didn't have time to do any research on any of these, so if y'all know anything about them, that's fine. Elijah Hill from Kennesaw State, Kamari Copeland from Virginia Tech, and Ethan Herkett out of Iowa. I didn't have a chance to do any research on any of them, but they were mentioned in our group chat, so I wanted to go ahead and put them on the screen so that we could get them out there. Anybody that watches, if you know anything about any of them, please jump on it. You got anybody else you're interested in seeing?
Shout out to Penn State Sports Talk 2477. He was in our chat. He or she, I don't know, but they said I can't pronounce that. Yvonne Kamaju is crazy, and they said he's going to play a big part in the return back to the playoffs.
Man, I've said this on multiple occasions, man, on our streams. The NFL, they got their work cut out for them this year. They got their work cut out for them every year. But this year, we've gone through several top 10 lists. And this one is no different than any of the other ones. But have you noticed that in this one we just did today, we didn't mention anybody from Texas A&M, anybody from Texas, anybody from Georgia, anybody from Alabama, anybody from Ohio State. We didn't mention anybody from any of those 5 schools, which we think are going to be, all of those teams are going to probably be in the top 10 except for maybe Alabama. And we didn't mention not one player from any of those teams on the defensive line, on the defensive interior line. The NFL going to have their work cut out for them. And we know all of those teams got some fantastic defensive linemen in the interior on them. The NFL, I feel for you because you're going to have your work cut out for you because it's going to be so much freaking talent in this 2027 NFL draft.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Rob. The depth at tons of positions are going to be crazy for this next NFL draft, and I expect defensive tackle to be one of them. And I mean, the defensive lines, man, as a whole in college football, man, it's going to be interesting to go back when the season starts and see which defensive tackles shot out the board and those who fell down the board as the season progresses.
So you mentioning that, Rob, the teams we didn't mention, your breakdown was 3 SEC, 3 Big 10, 2 ACC, 1 Big 12, and 1 independent, obviously with Notre Dame. So, but the problem is the Big 10, 2 of them are from one school. ACC, both of them are from one school. So, quick question here that you just mentioned about the NFL, Rob. I got one quick question before we jump off. Thinking back on our rankings that we've done so far, I'm not even going to include the linebackers and the DBs, which are coming next. Do you think this might be one of the deepest drafts we've seen in history?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
100%.
If you're an NFL player and you're playing in the NFL right now and you're on the back end of your career, You might want to tell your wife if you're married and your family, listen, daddy's coming home, because you might not be on the team anymore, man.
Man,
Yeah.
we've talked about running backs, quarterbacks, line. We didn't really get into O-line men because it was just going to be way too difficult, I think. But just what we've gone through so far, I mean, that's just our rankings of top 10. You're talking, 60 people right there that could probably be in the top 60 of the draft, not counting the breakout stars that we don't even really know who we mentioned on another stream. So, yeah.
Yeah, the depth at quarterback, wide receiver, defensive tackle, edge rusher, line, DB, it's going to be tremendous.
100%. We're going to do linebackers next week. Y'all want to split it while we're on stream? Do you want to split outside, inside, or you just want to do straight linebackers? I think we just do straight linebackers.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
And then DBs and safeties, we'll just do defensive backfields. Kind of go with that. I think that'll be the easiest. So that's what we'll go with. We'll get that out. What do you got coming up? Anything you're working on for Thursday postgame?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot of good college football. I think it's time to dive into some NFL. I know Mossberg of Level of Sports 10 is going to do an AFC North preview tomorrow at 7:45 p.m. Make sure y'all there. I think Thursday we're going to dibble and dabble a little bit in the NFL.
This weekend, Rob, I know there's a lot of people up here that'll be excited to hear what you've got going this weekend.
Well, on Saturday, for sure, we're going to be tackling the preseason rankings for the Big Ten. And on Sunday, that's to be announced.
So I'm going to do my best to jump on Thursday. I will not be on this weekend. I will be out of town. But I'll do my best to jump on Thursday.
All right, for sure, man. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
too.
definitely. I appreciate y'all, your input, all the knowledge that y'all bring when we do these ranking shows, and start that prep work, because I think linebackers are going to be just as much trouble as these D-lines have been, fellas. Other than that, y'all have a good evening. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you for joining. Again, go like and subscribe to all of our channels. You can find us on Patreon. You can also find us. We have a website, WTPSPORTSDUDES.com. Go there, drop your questions, comments, topics you want us to talk about. Let us know. We'll get on it. Other than that, gentlemen, have a good evening, and we will catch up on the next one. Peace.